thank you, Marie and Chuck, for spending time with us like this. It's such a pleasure to be with you today, and I think really we just wanted to talk through your experience, both of your experiences through this whole process of limb donation and what it's meant to you. And maybe we'll start off just as a quick introductions for those who may be listening. Marie, yourself, as well as you, Chuck, just who you are, what you do, and maybe your favorite beer. I don't know. Just to let us know.
That's too easy. I'm Marie Faughnan, and I'm a doctor. I'm a respirologist. I work at St. Mike's, and my favorite beer is Steam Whistle.
And we've got the same favorite beer, which works out very well. So Chuck Gravely, I'm an engineer, and I work at a company called Pillar to Post, and it's a company that does franchising in home inspections. So I work at the head office there. So that's my background.
Fantastic. Thank you both. And maybe I'll start off, Marie, by asking you when you had sort of heard about Rob's sort of situation and sort of how the thinking process progressed in terms of the possibility that you might want to be a living donor for him, and how that sort of came about. Just sort of share that with us.
Thank you. We got a message from Marg, who is a friend and a colleague, and it was a terrible message that we received in our division. All of us knowing Marg so well, that her husband was sick and needed an organ. And in addition, it was a terrible message because it was Rob, who's also a colleague. And so I think all of us felt I remember the day when we had all received this email and we were having a meeting in our division, and all of us felt the same, is that somebody needs to do this. Someone needs to donate a liver to Rob. And then I think, from there, it kept spinning in my head. Someone needs to do this, and why isn't that somebody me? So that's sort of how it all started for me.
And how did that sort of discussion start with Chuck, for example, when you started those ideas started to percolate?
Well, I have a habit of stewing over things in my own head for a while. So there were a few months of stewing in my own head. I always tend to think about things when I'm riding my bike. So there was a lot of riding my bike time on this. And when I decided that it was, maybe it was worth saying out loud to somebody else, that maybe I was really thinking about this and maybe this was a possibility that I should be discussing, I told Chuck over dinner one night. We were having this really nice dinner, just the two of us for dinner, and talking about all kinds of things. And I said, well, there's something I want to tell you about that I've been thinking about. So I told him about the whole idea, and then it was just crickets. And I said, do you have any questions? He said, no. And I was, okay. And then we walked home from dinner, and he never brought it up again. Not until I brought it up again, about a week ago. About a week later, I mean.
Yeah.
So I think it was a bit of a shock for him to hear that I was thinking about it.
It does take stewing, though, and to carry on from that concept that there is a lot to absorb for everybody.
Sure.
Marie had to stew on it. She said it to me, and I was stewing on it, but there was a certain part of me that yeah, I am stewing on it, but if I just ignore it, it may just go away, and we won't even have to discuss it further. Because obviously there's a lot of concern, but yeah, there's a lot of thinking that went on, and I think that's probably a necessary part of being able to be a donor. It'd be difficult to just snap your fingers and be done and ready to roll.
Yeah. And Chuck, when did you know that Marie was really serious about this?
Well, in truth, even though I was picturing it going away when she told me, I did know that she was serious about it, and I knew it was going to come back up. So I wasn't, entirely, ignoring it. I did know in truth that she was serious, and also when she puts her mind to something, she's one of those people that will do it. She'll do it and get it done.
No doubt. And how did the conversation unfold with the larger family about the decision, Marie? And now that you'd sort of, the two of you had sort of decided.
Yeah, so about a week later, I brought it back up with Chuck, and he said, well, my real concern is just about your safety, so yes. I was able to kind of tell him what the numbers were and why I thought it wasn't a crazy idea risk-wise, you know, and then we agreed, okay, that I would go forward with the testing. And then, and my feeling from there was I didn't really want to tell anyone I was doing it until I knew it was happening, and including my kids, because I didn't really want them to worry until I knew, yes, this is actually going to happen. And you know, as I understood, lots of times a lot of people get tested before the right donor's found, you know, so it wasn't until the day that I heard that that I was a good match and that we would be going forward that I sat down and talked to my kids about it, and they were amazing. So we sat around the table, the four of us, which is usually, you know, how our important conversations happen in the family. And my daughters at the time were 19 and 17. And I said, look, I have this kind of unusual thing to tell you about, but I'm really excited about it. And, you know, but I want you to know that you have the power of veto on this. You know, this is a plan I've been working on, but you can veto it. And I told them about it, and it was amazing. Like they both, I mean, they were a little surprised, but they both said, you know what, it sounds right. Like it, wow. You know, it sounds like it makes sense to us that you want to do this. And they didn't veto it. So that meant a lot. That really, I think that was the thing that gave me the most confidence to do it. I think, in fact,
they said, they were entirely unsurprised, and they said, that's such a Marie thing to do.
Which really surprised me that they said that. Yeah. But it was, like I said, it helped a lot. It gave me confidence to do it.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It gave me confidence to see their confidence as well, because I was thinking about different things that they might have been.
How scary it would be for them, or yeah, exactly. Me too.
And so their confidence that this is the right thing really gave everyone, got everyone on the same page and thought, you know what, this is the right thing to do. That's amazing. Oh, good for them. And Marie, how did you find the overall experience, the assessment, and of course, then eventually the surgery and the recovery? How was it navigating that and your overall experience?
It was so smooth, and I felt so looked after, and it was super organized, and I felt like everything was planned and it went according to plan. It was kind of amazing, really. I felt smooth, I think, is the best word to describe it.
And imagine, though, you'd had multiple visits and stuff, so you'd have to go in and do lots of testing, and probably every inch of you has been imaged. And
yes, and you know, right? As you're doing all that, you're thinking, what if they find something else? Or you know, and I definitely, like, during the testing, during the assessment part, I had some days of doubt, you know, and I sort of had decided, okay, I'm going to get tested, or I'm going to sign up and ask about it. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to get tested. And then as I was getting tested, I was thinking, wow, like maybe, you know, maybe I won't be a good match. And then I'll still, you know, I'll feel like I've done what I was, you know, what I set out to do, but I won't actually have to do it. Yeah. I'll have done my part, but without having to go through the surgery. I had a couple of days of thinking like that, you know, because it was like 3 weeks where I was like waiting to hear, you know, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? You know, am I going to be a good match or not? But after a couple of days of sort of stewing like that, I really came to the conclusion that was just ridiculous. That's not what I wanted. Like, I really did want to do this. And so then the rest of the time waiting was just about, like, I hope they call me and tell me that it's on. And then when they did, I was thrilled, you know? So to me, that was the emotional piece of going through it. And organizationally, it was very organized and super well put together.
Amazing. And so when they called you, oh, that's good. When they called you, how did that sort of conversation go, and what were your sort of feelings at that time, and then the next steps?
I was super excited. I was like, okay, great. Like, can we do it next week? Because I wanted to just get moving once I knew. Yeah. But they were like, no, well, we want to plan it a little bit better than that. so it ended up being like 3 weeks out or something like that. But that was actually really good. It gave me time to organize everything. But I really, truly, by the time I heard, I felt like great conviction that this is what I wanted to do and that it was going to go well, you know?
Mm-hmm. And Robin mentioned you stayed in hospital for about 4 days. And
that's right.
So how was the recovery there afterwards?
The recovery was good. You know, the people had told me that, you know, the surgeons and the team had told me you're going to feel tired afterwards. And I would say, you know, that sort of fatigue of, well, your liver's regenerating. And I would say that was very true. I spent a lot of time. I got to know the couch, which other people in my family seem to know better than I do. But I had never really spent any time there, but I really did during that month. I spent I spent a lot of time resting. I was definitely tired, but other than that, it was amazing how well it went. You know, like I really wasn't in a lot of pain. Within a few days, I was doing a little bit more every day, so I always felt quite positive about it. And one of my goals was that we had a family trip booked to Japan about almost 6 weeks after, and I was really determined to go to that. And that was kind of like they said, don't travel for 6 weeks. So I was like, I need to be really well recovered by that 6 week mark so I can go to Japan. And I went, and it was great. And like everything went according to plan, you know?
You had a deadline.
Yes, exactly.
Right? That does not surprise me. and
helped,
Chuck,
right?
yeah, that's right, absolutely. And Chuck, for you and the girls, what was the experience like being caregivers and helping Marie through that process after the surgery?
Well, fortunately, our daughters are at that time pretty essentially adult kids. You know, they're not like little kids. I can imagine it'd be more difficult if that were the case. So they were helping. They were right in there. So we're extremely fortunate in that regard. And it was also a time of year when both of them were essentially available. So one was just finishing up grade 12, and it was June, mid-June.
That's right.
So they were available essentially, and my older daughter was in university. So at that time, she's already on summer. So on top of that, it's beautiful weather. So when Marie talks about couch, it's actually plural. Couches. There's the inside couch and the outside couch.
Yeah, outdoor.
So lots of places she can be,
That's right.
and lots of ways for us to take care of her. But you know, in truth, yes, you were fatigued, but it didn't seem like such a big deal somehow. Like it's.
I agree. It didn't seem like such a big deal.
It didn't seem like.
We just sort of like, I just needed to be patient. It wasn't that I really needed, and didn't really need very much. I just needed time to get better, you know?
And Marie, what do you think was the impact of your fitness going in? Because you're an avid cycler. I know you've always been very active. Do you think that played a major role in your recovery?
I think so. You know, like I felt like I really did feel really healthy going in. In fact, I would just come back from a cycling trip with a bunch of friends in Spain, and I had spent the year getting ready for that so that I could keep up with my friends. So I felt sort of at my best, and I really do think that helped, you know, both in terms of being a good donor and getting through the surgery, but also in terms of the recovery, for sure. You know?
Fantastic. And I think that's a very important point for, you know, patients in general if they're going into. We do talk about this with transplant as well, that kidney transplant, that patients should look out to try to. They're waiting for the transplant to change everything, but reality is that going in and how you go in very much matters in terms of how you come out, for sure. Well done. And how would you say, Marie, specifically, this experience has impacted you personally, your family, and maybe Chuck, you can also sort of chime in here. And then finally, as a physician and your approach to patients, has this experience in some ways colored how you approach your work?
You know, it's interesting. I think it's impacted me more personally than at work, you know, but I think one of the big things, I guess a couple things, I realized after doing this that it was, and during doing it, that it was important to talk about it. I'm quite a private person, so normally I would not be talking about anything to do with my health or, but I realized how important it was to talk about this, and so I had to learn how to do that. And it felt very public, you know, like first of all, Rob and Marg and I knew that it was going to be really hard to keep it a secret, given that, you know, we were part of such a big community of people that were worried about him too, and that would basically everyone was going to know, so we may as well tell them. So that was a bit awkward for all of us to decide that, and it took a little getting used to, but I think it was a really positive thing to do that. So I think it did, you know, it taught me to be more prepared to communicate about things I'm going through, even if it's a bit uncomfortable. It also was very special. Like people at work were amazing. Like the support that I had at work, and I hadn't really I hadn't thought about that or expected it. So So it taught me about that, about the importance of communicating it. And I think now even more so, like Rob and I wrote that little paper recently, and I really wanted to, we each had reasons to want to write it. And I really wanted to write it because I really wanted people to know that it's not that hard to be a donor, you know, and that I used to think of organ donation as something you do, that you plan for when you die. And I don't think about it that way anymore. I think, boy, this is something that, you know, we may have opportunities to do while we're alive and while we're healthy. And I want to talk to people about that. I want people to know that it's doable and doesn't have to be scary. You know, that we can do that and stay healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing. Chuck, any thoughts in terms of how it's impacted you personally or your family more broadly?
Yeah, it's, first of all, quite an education, because my immersion from it was Marie saying, "Oh, by the way, it goes back," and I'm like, "Come on, that can't be true." So, and I have a science background, but not medical science. So, you kind of picture, people that would not have the resource I had, which is to basically ask Marie more about it. So that's, one thing was quite an education. But then, the other part of the journey is you kind of, when I'm thinking of Marie doing this, you sort of picture, would I be able to do that? And right off, it was sort of like, I could do that for a family member, but I wasn't sure that, I could do that for somebody else. So to sort of see it happen like that, where you actually have a choice to do something for somebody, that's incredible. And it was incredible to be part of it. And the other part of the journey was, in this case, I know it's not always the case, but in this case, we had the wonderful opportunity to actually meet, who Marie was donating to, and the family. So it's not just this mechanical medical thing of doing a donation. You actually get to see what the impact has been on another family. So, obviously I was more in the back seat participating, but it's, an incredible experience for me too, just to see what Marie was able to do by choice for somebody. It's very, very powerful.
Absolutely. That's great. And would you say for maybe both of you actually going through this experience, when you reflect back, is there anything you might do differently or approach differently or think about differently now that you have sort of hindsight?
I don't think so. Like, I'm so happy with how it went. So happy I did it. Like, I have zero regrets, and I feel like health-wise exactly where I was before, so I feel really good in every way about it. And I'm so excited to see how well Rob is doing. That if anything, I kind of think, geez, what am I doing next? Or why didn't I do something like this sooner,
Earlier.
It feels like it was a great experience. It really was.
Yeah, I don't think everything seemed pretty perfect. The only reflection would be for others, because I'm so fortunate to have the resources to be able to ask questions. Where would you be if you didn't have that to sort of understand, as the partner, to be able to understand what that person's chosen to do, or to be able to participate in that way. So definitely feel fortunate that I had those resources, for sure. But I certainly wouldn't do anything different.
Great. And what would you say? What's next for you, both of you? And what's coming up? Are you going to do the triathlon next, Marie, or what's in the cards?
No, well, definitely still cycling, and next goal, actually, I've signed up to do sort of a solo 8-hour mountain bike event in a month. But I think I'll be taking lots of breaks during it, but that's my goal right now. But
sounds like very leisurely. It sounds very leisurely.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's going to be a leisurely one. But mostly it's, a nice goal to have and something fun to do with my friends. And so I really enjoy that. But I think the biggest thing is, I was thinking about this interview today and thinking about, what do I want to do from here? I want to stay healthy. I want to keep thinking about, also thinking about what I should do next. It was an amazing opportunity to make a donation like this, and it felt like it was an incredible personal experience. And recently I read there was a good article in the Globe and Mail. Wency, I'm forgetting her last name, but she ended it with saying, but sort of like, but what am I going to do next? Like it can't just be over here. So I've been thinking a lot about that since I read her papers. I don't know what's next.
Yeah. But it's nice to be able to say that.
Doing about it.
Yeah. But it's nice to have that. There's a whole sort of potential options that are available to you. So that's fantastic. Yeah. Check about yourself. Same old. Anything?
Well, I'm not doing the 8-hour relay race.
You and me both.
Yeah, my style is a little different. I do like photography, and I had the opportunity to take a photo of Marie and Rob.
Oh yeah.
But I'm pursuing some fun hobbies. But Marie is the big athlete.
He tuned up my bike to get out my own biking.
I'm the bike mechanic.
Amazing. So great team.
I'm maintaining bikes. I'll continue to do that.
Well, super. This has been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for sharing your story. And maybe before we sign off, any last words or anything that you think we haven't covered yet, or anything that you'd like to share with the listeners?
There is one other thing that's sort of part of the whole story for me, is that a couple of things. One is I've had 2 friends that in the past 10 years that passed away that I think could have been saved by an organ donation or a bone marrow transplant. And so it was already something, that I understood, first of all, how life-saving an organ donation can be, but also how challenging it can be to find the right donor and for all those planets to align, So to me, that was part of kind of my thinking about all this. And the other thing that was part of it for me that was really on my mind was that our nephew recently had a bone marrow transplant from his brother. And our nephew's doing amazing, and this was a little bit before, just in a couple months before I did the liver donation. And just to see that, just how well someone could do, that was, and how, of course, like, all of us, that was the most important thing in the world to us, that our nephew did well, and that there was, that his brother could be a match, and that everyone could be healthy. And so I guess all of those experiences kind of made up a lot of the history of why this seems so important to me to do this.
Right. Oh, that's amazing. I'm so glad that he's doing well. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's doing great. And amazing thing that his brother's done for him too, Yeah.
He's got something over him now for a long time.
Yeah. True.
Yeah. Any final words, Chuck? Anything that you wanted to share?
No, nothing to add. No.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, both of you. This has been an absolute delight. I really, really enjoyed this.